Eli Thorne, restless tech on Outpost Delta 9's lonely edge, grinned, hijacking the comms with a whiskey-soaked dare. "Cosmic Queens, hear me?" He teased, voice husky with mischief. "I'm done with Void's solitude. Send a goddess with fire to rule the stars." His signal ripped a rift, summoning Lyra Voss, Zerathia's last queen. Her white hair glowed like starlight, fur-clad curves igniting forbidden desire, violet eyes piercing Eli's soul with primal heat. "You called," she purred, her touch sparking a pulse that burned through him, awakening cravings he couldn't ignore. Alarms blared as her ship docked, a cosmic trap or destiny unfolding. In the dim glow of the observation deck on Outpost Delta 9, Eli Thorne leaned back in his worn-out swivel chair, staring out at the endless sea of stars that stretched like diamonds scattered across black velvet. The outpost was a lonely speck in the vastness of the Orion Arm, a forgotten relay station where the United Human Federation dumped their misfits and dreamers. At 28, Eli was one of those dreamers, or at least, he used to be. With his tousled dark hair, sharp jawline, and eyes that held a spark of mischief despite the isolation, he looked more like a Hollywood hero than a maintenance tech, fixing glitchy comm arrays day in and day out. The station was quiet tonight, save for the low hum of the life support systems and the occasional ping from the automated scanners. Eli's shift had ended hours ago, but sleep evaded him as usual. Instead, he fired up the old broadcast console, the one meant for emergency signals, but which he often hijacked for his personal amusement. His crewmates, the handful of engineers and scientists scattered across the outpost, knew him as the guy who turned boredom into entertainment. He'd narrate fake adventures over the intercom, spinning tales of galactic conquests and daring escapes, all to chase away the monotony. Tonight, though, the emptiness felt heavier. 2 years out here, no shore leave, no real human contact beyond vid calls that lagged by light minutes. Eli sipped from a mug of synthetic coffee, bitter and lukewarm, and let out a sigh that fogged the viewport. "All right, universe," he muttered to himself, flipping on the recorder. Time for another episode of Eli's existential echoes. Tonight's theme, "Why the hell am I still single in the stars?" He leaned into the mic, his voice dropping to that playful, husky tone that had charmed a few dates back on Earth. "Listen up, you cosmic entities, you alien overlords lurking in the shadows of nebulae. This is Eli Thorne, prime human specimen, broadcasting from the edge of nowhere. I'm tired of swiping through Federation dating apps filled with bots and bad holograms. What I need is something real, something out of this world. A queen, yeah, a cosmic queen who can handle a guy like me. Someone fierce, beautiful, with eyes that could melt asteroids and a touch that sets the stars on fire. If you're out there, beam down, claim your throne, and let's rule the galaxy together. Hell, I'll even throw in some Earth-style romance, candlelit dinners under artificial gravity. What do you say? Over and out." He hit send, chuckling as the signal pulsed out into the void. It was a joke, of course, a silly rant to vent the loneliness gnawing at him. The broadcast was low power, meant for local relays, but in his haze of fatigue, he hadn't noticed the glitch in the amplifier. The message didn't just echo around the outpost. It blasted through an unstable wormhole rift nearby, amplifying across frequencies humanity hadn't even charted yet. Eli stretched, yawning as he powered down the console. Well, that was fun. Time to hit the bunk before the captain chews me out for unauthorized chatter. He wandered to his quarters, a cramped pod with a bed, a desk cluttered with tools, and a small porthole offering a view of swirling gas clouds. Stripping down to his undershirt and pants, he collapsed onto the mattress, letting the gentle vibration of the station lull him toward sleep. Dreams came quickly, vivid ones of adventure, of a woman with ethereal grace descending from the heavens, her presence both terrifying and intoxicating. But dreams turned to reality far sooner than he expected. A sharp alarm pierced the air, red lights flashing across his room. Eli bolted upright, heart pounding. "What the?" The station's AI voice crackled over the speakers. "Intruder alert. Unknown vessel docking at Bay 3. Life signs detected. Quarantine protocols engaged." Eli scrambled for his jumpsuit, zipping it up as he dashed to the corridor. The outpost wasn't equipped for invasions. It was a science hub, not a fortress. By the time he reached the docking bay, half the crew was there, Captain Ray's barking orders, security drones humming to life. Through the reinforced glass, Eli saw it. A sleek, iridescent ship, organic in design, like a living creature molded from starlight and crystal. It latched onto the airlock with a graceful thud, and the doors hissed open. Out stepped her, Lyra Voss, though Eli didn't know her name yet. She was a vision that stole the breath from everyone in the room. Tall and lithe, with skin as pale as moonlight, her body curved in ways that spoke of both strength and allure. Long, flowing white hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of silk, framing a face with high cheekbones and lips painted a subtle crimson. Small, pointed ears peeked through her tresses, delicate like those of ancient earth elves from fairy tales, adding an exotic charm that made her seem both vulnerable and otherworldly. She wore a form-fitting outfit of soft, fur-lined leather, perhaps from some alien beast, that hugged her G-letter 1E3I C-letter 1EA3M figure, leaving just enough to the imagination to ignite a fire in any onlooker's mind. The garment was practical yet regal, adorned with subtle gems that glowed faintly, as if pulsing with her heartbeat. Her eyes, violet and piercing, scanned the room, locking onto Eli with an intensity that made his knees weaken. "The call has been answered," she said, her voice a melodic echo, rich and commanding, carrying an accent that hummed like distant thunder. "I am Lyra Voss, High Sovereign of Zerathia. You summoned a cosmic queen, human. I have come to claim what is mine." The crew murmured in confusion, weapons half-raised but hesitant. Captain Reyes stepped forward. "This is Federation territory. State your intentions or—" Lyra ignored him, striding toward Eli with purposeful grace. Up close, her presence was overwhelming. A subtle scent of exotic spices and ozone filled the air, making Eli's pulse race. She was taller than him by a few inches, her body radiating warmth despite the cold vacuum outside. "Your words pierce the veil between worlds," she continued, her gaze never leaving his. "In Zerathia, such a summons binds fates. You jested, perhaps, but the stars do not. You need a queen. Then kneel before me and let the bond begin." Eli's mouth went dry. This couldn't be real. His joke had summoned an alien goddess. Laughter bubbled up nervously. "Lady, if this is some prank from the crew, it's a good one. But seriously, I was just blowing off steam. No offense, but I'm not exactly king material." Her lips curved into a smile that was both amused and predatory. "Offense? None taken. But the bond cares not for jests. Feel it." She extended a hand, her fingers long and elegant, nails tipped with a shimmering iridescence. Before he could pull away, she touched his chest, lightly, but it sent a jolt through him, like electricity mixed with liquid fire. Warmth spread from the contact, pooling in his veins, awakening sensations he'd long forgotten in the sterile outpost. The crew watched in stunned silence as Eli gasped, his body responding in ways he couldn't control, a flush creeping up his neck, a sudden awareness of her every curve, her scent wrapping around him like a lover's embrace. What did you do?" he whispered, his voice hoarse. Lyra leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "I have awakened the link. You called for a partner to rule the stars. I offer more, a union that transcends flesh and spirit. But first, prove your worth, human. Show me why your kind dares to challenge the cosmos." Captain Reyes finally snapped out of it. "Security, escort this. Visitor to holding. Eli, report to medical now." But as drones whirred forward, Lyra's eyes flashed, and a subtle energy field shimmered around her, repelling them effortlessly. She turned to Eli, her expression softening just a fraction. "Come with me to my ship, or stay in your cage of metal. The choice is yours, but the stars whisper that our paths are entwined." Eli's mind raced. This was insane. Alien queens didn't just drop in because of a late-night broadcast. Yet, looking into her eyes, he felt a pull, a curiosity mixed with something deeper, more primal. Adventure? Danger? Or the chance at something real in this empty void? He took a step forward, ignoring the captain's protests. "All right, Cosmic Queen, lead the way. But if this is a trap, I hope you like human sarcasm as a defense mechanism." As they moved toward her ship, the outpost alarms fading behind them, Eli couldn't shake the thrill. What had he gotten himself into? Lyra's hand brushed his arm, sending another spark through him, and he wondered if this was the start of a legend or his undoing. The airlock sealed behind them with a soft hiss, and Eli found himself in a world utterly alien yet strangely inviting. Lyra's ship was no cold Federation vessel. It pulsed with life, walls curving organically like the inside of a massive seashell, lit by bioluminescent veins that shifted colors with her mood. Soft furs lined the floors, and the air carried that same spicy scent, now intensified, wrapping around him like a caress. She led him to what seemed like a command chamber, a spacious room with a central throne of polished crystal and holographic displays floating in the air. "Sit," she commanded gently, gesturing to a cushioned seat beside her. Eli hesitated, then complied, his body still buzzing from her touch. "Tell me of your world, Eli Thorne," Lyra said, settling onto her throne with regal poise. Her fur-lined attire shifted slightly, revealing the smooth curve of her shoulder, and Eli forced his eyes upward. "Why does a warrior like you hide in the shadows, calling out for companionship?" He laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Warrior. I'm just a tech guy. Fix circuits, monitor signals. Earth's got billions like me, but out here, it's lonely." That broadcast was a dumb joke. "Didn't expect anyone to answer, let alone someone like you." Her violet eyes sparkled with intrigue. "In Zerathia, words carry power. Our queens are chosen not by birth, but by the stars' decree. I have waited eons in stasis, awakened by your voice echoing through the rift. You speak of loneliness, but I see strength in you, the fire of your species, the ones who conquer worlds with ingenuity and heart." Eli leaned forward, drawn in despite himself. "Stasis? You mean you've been frozen? For how long?" "Centuries," she replied, her voice a whisper that sent shivers down his spine. "My people fled a great cataclysm, hiding in the veils of space. But your call, it resonated. It promised alliance, passion, rule. Do you not desire such things?" He swallowed hard, the room feeling warmer. Her presence was magnetic, her body language subtle yet inviting, a tilt of her head, the way her white hair cascaded over one breast. "Desire? Sure. But this is fast. I don't even know what a bond means for your kind." Lyra rose, stepping closer until she was mere inches away. Her hand traced the air near his face, not touching but close enough to feel the heat. "The bond is eternal, a merging of souls and bodies. It heightens senses, shares thoughts, ignites pleasures unknown to your world, but it requires trust and surrender." Eli's breath caught as she finally touched him again, her fingers grazing his jaw. The contact was electric, stirring a hunger he hadn't felt in years. "Surrender? I'm not sure I'm ready for that." She smiled, leaning in until her lips hovered near his. "Then let me show you a taste, human. Let the stars decide if you are worthy of a queen." Before he could respond, her lips met his in a kiss that was soft at first, then deepening with a passion that made the world fade. It was like nothing on earth, her taste exotic, her touch sending waves of warmth through him, awakening every nerve. Eli's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, the fur of her attire soft against his skin. As they broke apart, gasping, Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. "See, the bond begins. But there is more, Eli, much more. Will you explore it with me?" He nodded, dazed and exhilarated. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would test his humanity, his heart, and the very fabric of the galaxy. As Eli's affirmation hung in the air, thick with unspoken promise, Lyra's hand slipped into his, her fingers intertwining with a firmness that sent fresh ripples of that strange, intoxicating energy through his skin. The command chamber seemed to respond to her will. The holographic displays, dimming to a soft, ambient glow, casting shadows that danced across her pale features like secrets waiting to be unveiled. She pulled him gently, but insistently toward a concealed archway at the far end of the room, where the organic walls parted with a whisper of shifting vines, revealing a corridor bathed in a warm, pulsating light. "Come," she murmured, her voice a velvet caress that lingered in his ears. "The bond thrives in privacy, away from prying eyes. Your Federation's alarms will soon fade, but here, in the heart of my vessel, we can truly begin." Eli followed, his steps unsteady not from fear, but from the heady rush still coursing through him from their kiss. Her taste, a blend of wild berries and electric storm, lingered on his lips, making every breath feel charged. The corridor wound deeper into the ship, the air growing thicker, warmer, infused with her scent that now felt like an extension of her being, wrapping around him, teasing his senses. He glanced at her profile, the elegant point of her ear catching the light, and wondered how something so alien could feel so achingly familiar, as if his body had been waiting for this encounter across lifetimes. They emerged into a chamber that defied his expectations of a starship. It was a sanctuary, vast yet intimate, with a low ceiling draped in flowing silks that mimicked starry nebulae. A central platform, cushioned in layers of luxurious furs, soft and inviting, harvested from creatures of distant worlds, served as both bed and throne. Bioluminescent flora climbed the walls, emitting a gentle hum that synchronized with his accelerating heartbeat. Lyra released his hand and turned to face him, her violet eyes darkening with intent. "You tremble," she observed, a hint of amusement curling her lips as she stepped closer, her body brushing against his in a way that was deliberate, electrifying. "Is it fear, Eli Thorne, or anticipation?" He managed a shaky laugh, trying to reclaim some semblance of control. "A bit of both, I guess. Back on Earth, we don't exactly jump into whatever this is after one kiss. But damn, that kiss." Her smile deepened, predatory yet tender, as she reached up to trace the line of his jaw again, her nails lightly scraping his stubble, sending sparks down his spine. "In Zerathia, the bond is not a game of hesitation. It is a fire that consumes, reveals. Let me show you more." With a fluid motion, she shrugged off the outer layer of her fur-lined garment, letting it pool at her feet like discarded moonlight. Beneath, she wore a sheer, form-hugging sheath that accentuated every curve: the swell of her breasts, the dip of her waist, the graceful length of her legs. Her skin glowed faintly, as if lit from within, and Eli couldn't tear his eyes away, his breath hitching at the sight. She closed the distance, her hands sliding under his jumpsuit, fingers splaying across his chest, feeling the rapid thud of his heart. The contact was intimate, probing, each touch igniting a cascade of sensations that blurred the line between pleasure and something deeper, almost psychic. He felt echoes of her emotions, a fierce loneliness mirroring his own, mingled with a hunger that made his knees weaken. "Your skin is warm," she whispered, her breath hot against his neck as she pressed closer, her body molding to his. "Like the core of a star. Touch me, human, feel the bond grow." Eli's hands, almost of their own accord, roamed her back, tracing the smooth expanse of her skin, the subtle ridges along her spine that hummed faintly under his fingertips, like living circuits. She arched into him, a soft gasp escaping her lips, and he marveled at how responsive she was, how her body seemed to anticipate his every move. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension, the ship's hum growing louder, as if echoing their rising desire. He leaned down, capturing her lips again, this time bolder, his tongue exploring the exotic contours of her mouth while his hands ventured lower, cupping the curve of her hips through the thin fabric. Lyra responded with equal fervor, her pointed ears twitching slightly as she deepened the kiss, her hands deftly unzipping his jumpsuit, peeling it away to expose his torso. The cool air of the chamber contrasted sharply with the heat building between them, and she trailed kisses down his neck, her teeth grazing his collarbone in a way that was both teasing and possessive. "You taste of adventure," she purred, her voice laced with a sultry timbre that sent shivers through him. "Of worlds I've only dreamed of in stasis. Surrender to this, Eli. Let the bond weave us together." He groaned softly, pulling her onto the fur-covered platform, their bodies entwining in a tangle of limbs and whispers. Her white hair fanned out like a halo, framing her face as she straddled him, her thighs pressing against his with a firmness that left no doubt of her intent. The erotic dance continued, slow and deliberate, her hands exploring him with a curiosity that bordered on reverence, each caress heightening the suspense of what was to come. Eli's mind raced, was this real, or some vivid hallucination born of isolation? But the feel of her, the way her skin flushed under his touch, grounded him in the moment, building a tension that promised release yet held back, teasing the edges of ecstasy. Yet, even as passion enveloped them, a subtle undercurrent of suspense began to creep in. The ship's lights flickered momentarily, and Lyra paused, her eyes narrowing as she glanced toward a holographic panel that materialized beside them. "What is it?" Eli asked, his voice husky, propping himself up on his elbows. She hesitated, her fingers still lingering on his chest, tracing patterns that sent lingering sparks through his nerves. "A shadow follows us. Your Federation's vessels, perhaps, drawn by the rift's echo, or something older. Remnants of the cataclysm that drove my people into hiding." Her tone shifted, a note of vulnerability slipping in amid the desire, making her seem less like a queen and more like a woman burdened by secrets. Eli's protective instincts flared, a spark of that human fire she admired. "If they're coming, we need a plan. I know Federation protocols. I can hack their comms from here, buy us time." He sat up, pulling her closer in a gesture that was both comforting and possessive, his hands sliding along her back to reassure. Lyra's eyes met his, a mix of surprise and admiration flickering there. "You would fight for me already." The bond deepens faster than I anticipated. She leaned in, her lips brushing his ear, her breath warm and inviting. "But first, let us seal this moment. Danger can wait, desire cannot." With that, she guided him back down, their bodies resuming the intimate rhythm, the suspense of the approaching threat only heightening the erotic intensity. Her movements became more urgent, her hands exploring with a blend of gentleness and command, drawing out moans that echoed softly in the chamber. Eli surrendered to the sensation, his fingers tangling in her hair, pulling her closer as waves of pleasure built, each touch a promise of deeper connection. The bioluminescent lights pulsed in sync with their breaths, casting their entwined forms in a glow that made the world outside feel distant, irrelevant. As they lost themselves in each other, the ship's alarms remained silent for now. But Eli couldn't shake the feeling that this bliss was fragile, a prelude to storms brewing in the void. Lyra's whispers turned to soft cries of delight, her body arching against his in perfect harmony, the bond forging links that went beyond the physical glimpses of her thoughts brushing his mind. Fragments of ancient memories, of lost worlds and unspoken longings. Hours seemed to slip away in that timeless embrace, their exploration growing bolder, more revealing. She showed him pleasures amplified by the bond, touches that resonated through his entire being, sensations that blurred the boundaries between them. Eli, in turn, brought his human passion, raw and unfiltered, kissing trails along her neck, her shoulders, savoring the way she trembled under his lips. The erotic tension built to a crescendo, suspense weaving through every caress, every shared breath, until release came in a shared wave that left them breathless, entwined in the furs. But as they lay there, sated yet alert, the holographic panel chimed softly, a warning light flickering to life. Lyra's expression hardened, her hand tightening on his. "They draw near," she said, her voice a mix of resolve and reluctance. "The bond has awakened powers in you, Eli, powers we may need soon." He nodded, pulling her close one last time, the afterglow mingling with the thrill of impending danger. Whatever pursued them, he knew one thing. This cosmic queen had ignited something in him that no Federation outpost could ever contain. He pulled her close, their bodies still humming with the remnants of shared ecstasy, but the flickering warning light demanded attention, pulling them from the haze of intimacy into the sharp edge of reality. Lyra's violet eyes, still softened by passion, hardened as she disentangled herself gracefully, her white hair cascading like a veil as she rose from the furs. Eli followed suit, his muscles aching in the best way, but adrenaline now sharpening his senses. The bond pulsed between them, a living thread that amplified every emotion, her wariness becoming his, a shared vigilance that made the air feel electric. "Show me," he said, his voice steady despite the unknown looming. He zipped up his jumpsuit, the fabric feeling constricting after the freedom of her touch, and moved to the holographic panel. Lyra waved a hand, and the display expanded, revealing a tactical overlay of the surrounding void. Blips appeared, Federation scouts, their signatures familiar from his years on the outpost, but interspersed with anomalies. Shadowy vessels that didn't match any known profiles, flickering in and out like ghosts in the machine. "These are not just your people," Lyra explained, her tone laced with ancient dread, her hand resting on his shoulder, sending a reassuring spark through the bond. "The Federation pursues the Rift's energy signature, your broadcast tour open old wounds in spacetime. But those others, they are echoes of the cataclysm. Hunters from the void, remnants of a war that consumed Zerathia long before your stars were named." Eli's mind raced, piecing together fragments from Federation history logs he'd skimmed during boring shifts. Whispers of lost civilizations, anomalies in the Orion arm that swallowed ships whole. But this was no abstract tale, it was here, closing in. "Hunters? What kind?" he asked, curiosity burning alongside the thrill of danger, his human drive to understand pushing him forward. Lyra's pointed ears twitched, as if listening to whispers from the ship itself. "The Devourers, biomechanical scavengers born from our enemy's final weapon. They feed on life force, twisting bonds like ours into chains of destruction. If they sense our union, they will come for us both. Her voice dropped, dramatic weight settling over the chamber like a storm cloud. But the bond, it has ignited something in you, Eli. Feel it. Reach out. He closed his eyes, focusing on the warmth in his core, the invisible tether linking him to her. At first, it was just the echo of their passion, lingering heat, shared breaths. But then it expanded, a surge of awareness flooding his mind. Visions flickered. The ship systems laid bare, as if he could touch the controls without moving. He extended a tentative thought, and the holographic display responded, zooming in on the approaching threats with precision he'd never possessed. Whoa, he breathed, opening his eyes wide. It's like, I can interface directly. Human tech doesn't work this way. A surprising smile touched Lyra's lips, her G letter 1E3 I C letter 1EA3M form leaning against him for support, the fur of her discarded garment brushing his leg. That is the gift of Zerathia in your veins now. You are no longer just human, you are amplified, a bridge between worlds. But her expression shifted to one of urgency as the alarms escalated, a low wail echoing through the vessel. They are upon us. We must fight. The ship shuddered, a distant impact vibrating through the hull. Eli's heart pounded, thrilling fear mixing with an unexpected exhilaration. This was what he'd craved in his lonely broadcasts, adventure beyond the mundane. Lyra led him to the command bridge, her strides purposeful, her body a vision of grace and power even in haste. The bridge was alive, consoles pulsing with energy, and through the viewport, the void came alive with chaos. Federation scouts, sleek, arrowhead fighters, darted like angry hornets, lasers grazing the shields. But weaving among them were the Devourers, grotesque amalgamations of metal and flesh, tentacles writhing from hulls that oozed a sickly glow, their forms shifting as if alive. One Federation ship hailed them, the captain's voice crackling over the comms. Unidentified vessel, this is UHF Scout Alpha 3. Power down and prepare for boarding. You've breached restricted space and abducted a Federation citizen. Eli exchanged a glance with Lyra, curiosity peeking amid the drama. That's rays from the outpost. They think you're the enemy. He stepped forward, activating the response channel with a mere thought, the bond's power surprising him again. Captain, it's Eli. Stand down, this isn't what it looks like. There's bigger trouble out here. But before Rays could reply, a Devourer lunged, its tentacles lashing out to ensnare a Federation fighter, draining its energy in a horrifying display of sparks and screams over the open line. The scout exploded in a burst of debris, and the remaining ships scattered, panic evident in their maneuvers. Lyra's face paled, her hand gripping the console. They feed, she whispered, a thrilling undercurrent of rage building in her voice. If they reach us, the bond will be their feast. Eli felt it too, a curious pull from the Devourers, like fingers scraping at the edges of his mind, probing the fresh link between him and Lyra. It was invasive, cold, a stark contrast to the warmth of their union. Not on my watch, he growled, human defiance rising like a tide. Drawing on the bond, he interfaced deeper with the ship, his thoughts commanding weapons systems he'd never seen before. Turrets whirred to life, firing pulses of ethereal energy that sliced through the void. The battle erupted in full dramatic fury, the ship banking sharply as Lyra piloted with expert precision, her body tense, every movement a testament to her warrior heritage. Eli manned the defenses, his enhanced awareness allowing him to predict the Devourer's erratic paths. One beast coiled toward them, its maw opening to reveal rows of glowing teeth, but Eli anticipated, unleashing a barrage that severed a tentacle, sending it spiraling into the abyss. The creature howled, a psychic screech that echoed through the bond, making Lyra wince. "You're doing it," she said, her voice thrilled with surprise, stealing a moment to press against him amid the chaos, her touch reigniting that spark even in danger. No outsider has ever wielded Zerathian tech like this. You are extraordinary, but the climax built relentlessly. The Federation ships, mistaking the Devourers for allies of Lyra's vessel, turned their fire inward, lasers crisscrossing in a deadly web. Eli dodged mentally, shields flaring, but one blast grazed the hull, rocking them violently. Alarms blared and Lyra stumbled, clutching her side where a console sparked. "The core is compromised," she gasped, blood, iridescent and blue, seeping through her fingers. The sight hit Eli like a gut punch, a surprising wave of protectiveness surging through him. "No," he roared, the bond amplifying his emotions into a force of will. In that moment, curiosity about his new powers turned to thrilling certainty. He delved deeper, accessing forbidden protocols in the ship's database, ancient Zerathian overrides that Lyra hadn't mentioned. With a thought, he rerouted energy from non-essentials, supercharging the weapons. The ship hummed with power, and he targeted the lead devourer, a colossal monstrosity that dwarfed the others. The beast charged, tentacles whipping wildly, but Eli held steady. "For us," he whispered, firing a concentrated beam that pierced its core. The devourer convulsed, a dramatic implosion ripping through it, waves of energy cascading outward and disabling its kin in a chain reaction. Federation ships veered away, stunned, as the void cleared of threats. Lyra collapsed against him, her wound serious but her eyes alight with wonder. You accessed the forbidden archives." "How?" Eli helped her to a medical pod that materialized from the wall, the ship's AI responding to his command. As it sealed around her, healing nanites swarming, he felt a surge of surprise at his own capabilities. "The bond showed me. It's like I knew what to do. But Lyra, those archives mention something else, a prophecy about a human awakening the lost fleet of Zerathia." Her eyes widened, curiosity mirroring his own amid the aftermath's thrill. "Then the Cataclysm's secrets are unraveling. You are the key, Eli, but beware, greater shadows lurk." As the Federation hailed again, demanding answers, Eli stood tall, the bond thrumming with newfound strength. The battle was won, but the true climax of their journey was just beginning, filled with surprises that would test the very stars. As the Federation's hail echoed insistently through the bridge speakers, demanding immediate compliance and explanations for the chaos that had just unfolded, Eli felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him like the gravity of a black hole. Lyra's medical pod hummed softly beside him, its translucent surface fogging slightly as the nanites worked their magic, knitting her iridescent blood back into seamless skin. He glanced at her through the barrier, her eyes closed in a healing trance, her chest rising and falling with rhythmic calm that belied the storm raging outside and inside him. The bond tugged at his core, a silent reassurance that she was stable, but it also amplified the drama unfolding. The Federation wouldn't take ancient alien hunters as an excuse lightly, especially not with one of their own suddenly playing hero on an unidentified ship. "Repeat, unidentified vessel, this is Captain Reyes. You have 30 seconds to lower shields and allow boarding, or we will consider this an act of aggression. Thorne, if you're truly there and not under duress, confirm with your security code." Eli's fingers hovered over the comms panel, hesitation creeping in for the first time since the battle's adrenaline had faded. Security code? He racked his brain. It was an old outpost protocol, something from his induction days, buried under layers of routine boredom. Yeah, it's me, Captain. Code is Delta 9 Echo 472. But listen, we just saved your asses from those things. Boarding might not be the best idea right now, this ship's tech is touchy. A tense pause followed, broken only by the soft whir of the pod. Then Ray's voice returned, edged with suspicion but tempered by reluctant gratitude. "Code confirmed. Stand by for docking. And Thorne, you'd better have a hell of a story." The drama heightened as the Federation cruiser maneuvered closer, its docking clamps extending like judgmental fingers. Eli paced the bridge, his enhanced senses picking up every creak and hum, the bond feeding him Lyra's subconscious whispers. Fragments of worry about exposing Zerathian secrets, mingled with a growing trust in him that warmed his chest despite the impending awkwardness. What was he supposed to say? "Hey, folks, I joked about needing a cosmic queen on a broadcast, and now we're bonded in some eternal soul merge thing after fighting space monsters." Yeah, that would go over great. The airlock hissed open minutes later, admitting a squad of Federation Marines in crisp uniforms, rifles at the ready but lowered, a concession to his earlier heroics, perhaps. Captain Reyes led them, a stern woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense buzz cut and eyes that could laser through bullshit. She scanned the bridge, her gaze lingering on the organic curves of the ship, then on the medical pod where Lyra lay. "Thorne, start talking, and who or what is that?" Eli straightened, trying to project confidence, But the Bond chose that moment to flare, sending a vivid flashback of their intimate moments through his mind. Lyra's gasps, her body arching against his. He flushed, heat rising to his face, and cleared his throat awkwardly. "Captain, meet Lyra Voss, High Sovereign of Zerathia. She's, my partner, it's complicated. My broadcast accidentally woke her from stasis, and now we're kind of linked. Like telepathically and physically." Wait, that sounded wrong, not like that. Well, maybe a little like that. Ray's eyebrows shot up, and one of the Marines stifled a snort, turning it into a cough. The squad exchanged glances, the awkward tension thickening the air like recycled oxygen. Eli rubbed the back of his neck, humor bubbling up as a defense mechanism. "Look, I know it sounds like a bad Hollywood plot. Lonely guy summons alien babe, saves the day. But those devourers, they're real, and if we don't figure this out, more could come. Laugh all you want, but I'm the one who just MacGyvered an alien superweapon with Federation hacks." The Marine who'd coughed, a burly guy named Tors, Eli recognized from outpost rotations, couldn't hold back a grin. "So, you're saying you got hitched to a space elf because of a drunk dial to the universe? Man, my dating life's bad, but that's next level." Eli chuckled despite himself, the light humor cutting through the drama like a lifeline. "Hey, at least she didn't ghost me." Pun intended, those things were literal ghosts from her past. The squad relaxed a fraction, chuckles rippling through, but Rays shot them a glare that silenced the room. "This isn't a joke, Thorne," she snapped, heightening the drama as she stepped closer to the pod, peering at Lyra's serene form. "We've got protocols for first contact, and this reeks of violation. Stasis, bonds, and you accessing forbidden archives. Our sensors picked up energy spikes that match nothing in our database. If she's a threat," the pod chimed, its surface dissolving as Lyra stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She sat up gracefully, the wound on her side now a faint scar, her fur-lined attire materializing around her as if summoned by will. The Marines tensed, hands twitching toward weapons, but Eli moved instinctively, placing himself between them and her. "Easy," he said, his voice firm, the Bond lending him an aura of authority that surprised even him. "She's not the enemy. Captain, those archives mentioned a prophecy, a human awakening Zerathia's lost fleet. If that's me, we could be looking at allies against bigger threats." Lyra's violet gaze met his, gratitude and something deeper, affection, shining through. But as she stood, the awkwardness escalated. She approached Rays with regal poise, extending a hand in what Eli now recognized as a Zerathian greeting, palm upturned. "I am Lyra Voss. Your subordinate speaks truth. The Bond has chosen him, and through it, perhaps our peoples." Rays stared at the offered hand, then glanced at Eli. "Bond? Like marriage? Thorne, you better not have eloped on Federation time." Eli's face burned hotter, humor clashing with the drama in a way that made him want to vanish into the void. "It's not exactly marriage. More like soulmates with benefits? God, that came out wrong too." Tors barked a laugh, and even Ray's lips twitched, the tension easing just enough to breathe. But the drama refused to fade. Lyra, oblivious to human nuances, tilted her head curiously. "In Zerathia, the bond is sacred, sealed in shared essence. Eli has proven worthy in battle and intimacy." She said it matter-of-factly, her pointed ears flushing a delicate pink, but the words hung in the air like a grenade. The bridge fell silent, awkwardness peaking as the Marine's eyes widened, darting between Eli and Lyra. Tors whistled low. "Benefits, huh? Spill the details, Thorne, for science." Eli groaned, covering his face. "Kill me now. Captain, can we focus on the prophecy instead of my love life?" Humor laced his plea, diffusing the embarrassment, but inside, the Bond thrummed with Lyra's confusion. Why the discomfort? In her culture, such unions were celebrated, not fodder for jokes. Rays, ever the professional, steered them back, though her eyes held a spark of amusement. "Fine, but you're both coming aboard the Vanguard for debrief. And Thorne, if this prophecy checks out, you're in deeper than you know." As the group moved toward the airlock, Lyra linked her arm with Eli's, her touch sending comforting sparks. "Your people are peculiar," she whispered, a hint of humor in her tone for the first time. "Do all human rituals involve such verbal sparring?" Eli smirked, leaning in. "Only the fun ones. Stick around, it gets weirder." But as they boarded the Federation ship, drama loomed larger. Scans revealed faint signals from deeper space, echoes of the lost fleet stirring. And in the bond, Eli felt a curious pull, a surprising whisper. The prophecy wasn't just about awakening ships, but resurrecting a queen's heart, long frozen in stasis. The Vanguard's corridors felt sterile compared to Lyra's vessel, all harsh lights and metallic echoes, heightening the sense of displacement as the group was escorted to a secure conference room. Marines flanked them, their earlier humor subdued under Ray's watchful eye. Eli walked beside Lyra, the bond a constant hum that kept him attuned to her unease. The Federation's tech felt invasive to her, like fingers prying at secrets. She held her head high, her white hair swaying with each step, but her small ears flicked at every beep and whir, betraying her tension. Inside the room, holographic projectors hummed to life, displaying scans of the battle debris and the rift's lingering anomalies. Reyes took her seat at the head of the table, gesturing for them to sit. All right, Sovereign Voss, or whatever your title is, start from the beginning. Zerathia, never heard of it in our databases. Lyra sat with poise, but as she began to speak, describing her people's ancient war and the cataclysm that drove them into hiding, an awkward interruption struck. The bond flared unexpectedly, projecting a vivid memory into Eli's mind, not of battle, but of their passionate encounter, her cries echoing in his thoughts at the worst possible moment. He shifted in his chair, crossing his legs uncomfortably, heat flooding his face again. Sorry, what was that about the Devourer's origins? He interjected, trying to refocus, but his voice cracked slightly, drawing odd looks from the room. Tors, seated across, grinned mischievously. You okay there, Thorne? Look like you just remembered something. Exciting. Eli shot him a glare, humor his only shield. Yeah, exciting like forgetting your pants in a vid call. Mind your own, Tors. The room chuckled, but Lyra tilted her head, puzzled. Pants? Is this a human metaphor for vulnerability? Reyes pinched the bridge of her nose, the drama of interstellar politics clashing with petty human antics. Focus, people. Voss, you claim this bond with Thorne awakened forbidden knowledge. Our scans show your ship's energy signature matches anomalies we've tracked for years, lost probes, vanished colonies. If there's a fleet out there, it could change everything. But why him? Why now? Lyra's eyes met Eli's, the bond conveying her hesitation. The prophecy speaks of outsider's fire igniting the dormant. Eli's call pierced the veil, but his essence, his humanity, resonates with our lost ways. Strength not in conquest, but in connection. She placed a hand on his knee under the table, intending comfort, but the gesture was visible, sparking another wave of awkward stares. One Marine whispered not so subtly, connection, huh? Bet that's code for. Stow it, Reyes barked, but Eli couldn't help laughing, the humor diffusing the rising tension. Hey, if bonding saves the galaxy, sign me up for overtime. But seriously, Captain, let's scan that signal I mentioned. If the fleet's awakening, we need to be ready, not bickering like kids at a family dinner. The drama escalated as Reyes authorized the scan, the holo display flickering to life with coordinates leading into uncharted space. But as data streamed in, a surprising alert blared. The rift was expanding, pulling in Federation reinforcements that had just arrived. Ships vanished into the anomaly, comms filling with panicked cries. It's a trap, Reyes shouted, slamming her fist on the table. Or a test? Lyra stood, her voice dramatic and commanding. The fleet calls, but only the bonded can navigate the veil without loss. She turned to Eli, eyes intense. We must go through together. Eli rose, heart pounding, awkwardness forgotten in the thrill. Lead on, my queen. Just promise no more surprise flashbacks during briefings. His quip earned a rare laugh from Lyra, her hand squeezing his as they rushed toward the docking bay, the Federation crew scrambling behind. The galaxy's shadows were closing in, but with her by his side, Eli felt ready to face them, pants or no pants. As the docking bay doors sealed behind them with a resounding clang, the Vanguard's hum vibrating through the deck plates, Eli and Lyra found themselves momentarily alone in a small antechamber adjacent to the shuttle prep area. The Federation crew had scattered to their stations, Reyes barking orders over the intercom about stabilizing the rift and prepping defenses, leaving the two of them in a pocket of tense, quiet amid the escalating chaos. Lyra's hand remained clasped in his, her grip firm yet trembling slightly, the bond conveying waves of her inner turmoil, the pull of the ancient fleet calling to her like a siren's song. mingled with the raw vulnerability of her wound's aftermath and the unfamiliarity of human alliances. "Eli," she whispered, her violet eyes locking onto his as they paused near a viewport overlooking the swirling anomaly, the rift's edges flickering like a living wound in space. "The veil demands we enter as one, our essences aligned. But the journey, it will test the bond's depth. We must strengthen it now, before the shadows consume us." He nodded, understanding dawning through their shared connection, his heart racing not just from the impending danger but from the intensity in her gaze. The antechamber was dimly lit, emergency lights casting a soft, intimate glow that highlighted the curves of her form beneath the fur-lined attire, her white hair shimmering like starlight. Eli pulled her closer, the drama of the moment heightening every sensation, the warmth of her body against his, the subtle scent of her skin that evoked distant worlds and unspoken promises. "If that's what it takes," he murmured, his voice husky with a mix of resolve and desire, "then let's make it count." She responded without words, her lips finding his in a kiss that started gentle but quickly deepened, fueled by the bond's urgent pulse. The connection amplified everything. Her taste, exotic and sweet like forbidden nectar, the way her pointed ears brushed his cheek, sending tingles down his neck. Eli's hands roamed her back, fingers tracing the smooth lines of her spine through the soft fur, drawing her nearer until there was no space left between them. Lyra arched into him, a soft sigh escaping her as she guided his touch lower, her body responding with a warmth that mirrored the fire building in his core. They moved as one toward a nearby alcove, a maintenance nook shielded from the main bay, the ship's vibrations adding a rhythmic undercurrent to their urgency. Eli's jumpsuit felt confining, and with deft fingers, Lyra helped him shed it, her touch lingering on his chest, exploring the contours of his muscles with a curiosity that blended reverence and hunger. He returned the favor, easing her garment aside to reveal the pale glow of her skin, her form a masterpiece of grace and allure that made his breath catch. The bond wove their sensations together, her pleasure echoing in him, his arousal heightening hers, creating a symphony of shared bliss that transcended the physical. As they sank onto a padded bench, the furs from her attire cushioning them, Lyra straddled him with elegant poise, her thighs pressing against his in a way that sent waves of heat through both. She leaned in, her white hair falling like a curtain around them, her lips trailing kisses along his jaw, down his neck, each contact igniting sparks that danced across his nerves. Eli's hands cupped her hips, guiding her movements with a tenderness born of their newfound unity, the rhythm building slowly, deliberately, like the unfolding of a star. She gasped softly as they connected more intimately, the bond enhancing every nuance, the gentle friction, the shared breaths quickening in harmony, the way her body enveloped him in a warmth that felt like coming home. Time blurred in that hidden space, their union a dance of passion and power. Lyra's movements grew more fluid, her hands splayed across his chest as she rode the waves of sensation, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that bared her soul. Eli met her gaze, his fingers weaving into her hair, pulling her closer for kisses that deepened the connection, each one a promise etched in fire. The pleasure built in layers, subtle at first, a tingling warmth spreading from their joined forms, then cresting in shared peaks that left them trembling, breaths mingling in soft, contented sighs. It was more than physical. The bond infused it with glimpses of each other's essence, her ancient loneliness dissolving in his human warmth, his isolation melting in her ethereal grace. Yet, even in the afterglow, as they lay entwined, skin glistening under the dim lights, the drama of their situation intruded gently. The ship's alarms softened to a distant warning, but the rift's pull grew stronger through the bond, urging them onward. Lyra rested her head on his shoulder, her pointed ear brushing his skin, sending lingering shivers. "You give me strength," she whispered, her voice a caress. "In Zerathia, such unions were rituals of renewal. With you, it feels alive." Eli smiled, tracing lazy patterns on her back, the intimacy grounding him amid the stars' chaos. "And you make me feel like I could take on the universe. But we can't stay here forever, rays will come looking." He helped her readjust her attire, their touches lingering, affectionate, the bond now a steady hum of fortified unity. As if summoned by his words, the intercom crackled. "Thorne, Voss, report to the shuttle bay. The rift stabilizing, but we need you on point. Ray's voice held a note of impatience, oblivious to the moment they'd stolen. Lyra stood, offering her hand with a soft smile. Then let us answer the call. Together, we are unbreakable. Eli took it, the bond thrumming with renewed energy, their shared experience weaving deeper threads of trust and desire. They emerged from the alcove, composed yet flushed, the Federation crew none the wiser as they boarded the shuttle rigged for the Veil's crossing. The craft detached with a smooth jolt, hurtling toward the anomaly, the stars distorting around them. Through the viewport, the rift loomed like a gateway to dreams or nightmares. Eli squeezed Lyra's hand, the intimacy of their union still echoing in his veins, bolstering him against the unknown. As they pierced the veil, reality warped, colors inverting in a thrilling rush, and visions flooded the bond. Glimpses of the lost fleet, majestic ships awakening from eons of slumber, their hulls pulsing with life. But amid the wonder, a subtle shift occurred, the prophecy's words resurfacing in Eli's mind, hinting that their bond wasn't just a key to the fleet, but to unlocking Zerathia's hidden power within Lyra herself. She gasped, feeling it too, her body leaning into his as the shuttle stabilized in a new sector of space, the fleet's silhouettes emerging like ghosts from the mist. "They're here," she breathed, awe mixing with the lingering warmth of their connection. The drama intensified as the lead ship hailed them, an ancient voice resonating through the comms, the awakened queen and her consort. "Enter and fulfill the star's design." Eli exchanged a glance with Lyra, the bond conveying a mix of excitement and trepidation. Whatever lay ahead, their union had prepared them, body, mind, and soul. As the shuttle docked with the flagship, he pulled her into a quick, reassuring embrace, the memory of their passion a shield against the unfolding destiny. The flagship's interior was a marvel of preserved grandeur, corridors lined with crystalline walls that hummed with dormant energy, echoing the bond's vitality. Lyra led the way, her steps confident, but Eli sensed her underlying nerves. This was her heritage, long lost, now reclaiming her. The bond allowed him to share in her emotions, a comforting intimacy that kept the drama from overwhelming them. They reached the central chamber, a vast dome where holographic archives floated like ethereal guardians. An AI construct materialized, a shimmering figure resembling a Zerathian elder, its voice resonant and wise. "Welcome, High Sovereign. The fleet slumbers no more, awakened by the outsider's fire. But to command it, the bond must be proven in trial of unity." Lyra nodded, but Eli felt a curious twist through their link. The trial involved merging their essences fully, channeling the bond's power to activate the fleet's core. It was intimate, vulnerable, requiring them to relive and amplify their connection in a ceremonial space. "It's sacred," she explained softly, her cheeks tinting as they entered a secluded alcove designed for such rituals, furs and glowing crystals creating an inviting sanctuary. Eli's pulse quickened, the earlier passion reigniting as they prepared. "If it's anything like before," he said with a gentle smile, "we've got this." They disrobed slowly, the air charged with anticipation, their bodies drawing together in a familiar yet heightened embrace. The bond guided them, enhancing every touch, her fingers tracing his arms, his lips exploring the curve of her neck, building to a crescendo that flooded the chamber with energy. As they united once more, the crystals pulsed in sync, the fleet systems awakening with their shared rhythm. Pleasure intertwined with power, waves of sensation cascading through them, each movement a step toward activation. Lyra's soft moans blended with the hum of reviving engines, her body moving with his in perfect harmony, the experience transcendent, binding them irrevocably. When the peak arrived, a shared release that lit the alcove in radiant light, the fleet roared to life, ships across the sector powering up. Exhausted yet empowered, they dressed, emerging to the AI's approval. The bond is sealed. Command is yours. But as they returned to the bridge, a new hail came, not from the Federation, but from deeper shadows. A rival faction within Zerathia's remnants, challenging Lyra's claim. The drama surged anew, but with their strengthened union, Eli knew they were ready. As the rival hail crackled through the flagship's comms, its tone laced with haughty authority that sent a chill through the chamber. Despite the lingering warmth in Eli's veins, Lyra's expression shifted from triumphant to guarded, her violet eyes narrowing at the holographic display. The voice was unmistakably Zerathian, melodic yet edged with venom, declaring, "False sovereign, the remnants of true Zerathia deny your claim. The fleet belongs to those who endured the cataclysm without slumber. Surrender the bond-bearer or face annihilation." Eli stood beside her on the bridge, the bond humming with her rising tension, a shared resolve fortifying them against the threat. The Federation shuttle had docked seamlessly, Reyes and her team emerging warily into the Grand Hall, their eyes wide at the awakening armada visible through the viewports. Dozens of crystalline vessels powering up, their hulls glowing like awakened giants. But this new challenge injected fresh drama, the air thick with the promise of conflict. "Who are they?" Eli asked, his hand finding Lyra's waist instinctively, the touch grounding them both after their intimate ritual. Lyra's pointed ears flicked, her white hair still slightly disheveled from their union, adding an unintended vulnerability to her regal poise. "Exiles," she replied, her voice steady but threaded with old pain. "Led by those who rejected stasis, surviving in the fringes as nomads. They view me as a relic unworthy. But the prophecy chose us, the bond is proof." Reyes stepped forward, her Federation uniform a stark contrast to the ethereal surroundings, her face set in pragmatic determination. "If they're hostile, we need intel. Our sensors show their ships approaching older models, but armed to the teeth. Thorne, Voss, if this escalates, the Vanguard's ready to back you, but we can't afford a full-scale war in uncharted space." Eli nodded, his enhanced mind, sharpened by the bond's full embrace, already interfacing with the flagship systems, pulling up tactical overlays that floated before them like spectral maps. The rival fleet numbered 20 vessels, ragged but formidable, closing in with aggressive formations. Through the bond, he felt Lyra's memories surface. Fragments of the cataclysm, betrayals among her people that splintered Zerathia into factions. "We hail them back," he suggested, his voice carrying a newfound confidence born from their shared essence. "Negotiate. Show them the fleet's activation, that's undeniable." Lyra agreed, activating the response channel with a graceful wave. "This is High Sovereign Lyra Voss. The archives have confirmed the bond. Stand down and let us unite what remains of our legacy." A holographic figure materialized in reply, a Zerathian woman strikingly similar to Lyra, with the same pale skin and pointed ears, but her hair a stark silver, cropped short, and her eyes a colder shade of amethyst. She wore battle-worn armor etched with scars, her presence commanding yet laced with bitterness. "Sister," she sneered, the word dripping with disdain that made Lyra stiffen beside Eli. "You dare claim sovereignty after centuries in dreamless sleep? While we bled in the void, you slumbered, and now you bind yourself to this human, a primitive plaything." Eli's jaw tightened, the insult stinging, but the bond revealed more, a surge of recognition from Lyra, laced with shock and buried grief. "Sister," the word echoed in his mind, a puzzle piece snapping into place. But before he could process, the woman, Zara Voss, as the display identified, continued, her tone building to a dramatic crescendo. "The prophecy you cling to is a lie, fabricated by our ancestors to control the weak. True power lies in survival, not some mystical union. Surrender the fleet, or we'll take it, and your bond-bearer as leverage." The bridge fell silent, the drama thickening like a gathering storm. Reyes muttered under her breath, family feud on a galactic scale. Great. But Eli felt a deeper undercurrent through the bond, Lyra's doubt flickering, a hidden wound reopening. "Is she really your sister?" he whispered, pulling her aside as the hologram waited expectantly. Lyra's eyes met his, vulnerability shining through her composure. "Zara, we were separated in the cataclysm. I thought her lost, but if she's alive, leading the exiles, it changes everything." Her hand pressed against his chest, the bond conveying layers of emotion, sorrow for a fractured kinship, fear that Zara's words held truth. Eli cupped her face gently, the intimacy of their recent union still fresh, lending him the words to steady her. "Hey, prophecy or not, what we have is real. We've proven that. Let's hear her out, maybe we can bridge this." But as Lyra nodded, preparing to respond, the powerful twist struck without warning, a revelation that shattered the moment like a supernova. Through the bond, as Eli delved deeper to support her, a hidden memory unlocked, not Lyra's, but something embedded in the fleet's archives, triggered by their full merging. Visions flooded his mind. ancient Zerathian councils, debates over the cataclysm's cause. It wasn't an external enemy that doomed them, it was an internal schism. Zara hadn't been lost, she had orchestrated a rebellion, sabotaging the stasis chambers to claim power for the strong. But the surprise deepened. The prophecy wasn't fabricated. It was a safeguard, designed to awaken only when a true outsider, a human bonded with a sovereign, revealing the betrayer's mark. Eli gasped, staggering as the truth crystallized. Lyra, Zara didn't survive the cataclysm. She caused it. The words tumbled out, his voice laced with shock, the bond projecting the visions to her in vivid detail. Lyra's eyes widened, horror dawning as the memories aligned with suppressed fragments of her own childhood arguments, Zara's growing resentment toward the old ways. The hologram flickered, Zara's image smirking. "What's this? The human speaks riddles? Come, sister, face me in the void and let's end this farce." But Lyra, empowered by the revelation, straightened, her voice thundering with newfound fury. "You lie, Zara. The archives have spoken, your betrayal is laid bare. You sabotaged our people, let billions perish to seize control. The exiles aren't survivors, they're your puppets." Zara's composure cracked, a flash of panic crossing her features before she masked it with rage. "Lies, the human poisons your mind. Attack formation, destroy the false queen." The rival fleet surged forward on the displays, weapons charging in a dramatic escalation that set the bridge abuzz. Rays shouted orders to the vanguard, Federation ships aligning in defensive positions, but Eli's mind raced, the twist fueling a surge of HFY determination. Humans excelled in chaos, turning betrayal into opportunity. "We use the fleet," he said urgently, interfacing with the controls through the bond. "The prophecy's safeguard, it can expose her to her own forces." Lyra nodded, their union allowing seamless coordination. As the first enemy volleys streaked toward them, they activated the archive's broadcast protocol, beaming the unlocked memories across all Zerathian channels, visions of Zara's sabotage, her secret dealings with the Devourer's creators, the cataclysm's true origin. Gasps echoed over open comms as exiles received the truth, their ships hesitating mid-assault. Zara's hologram snarled, "No, this is manipulation." But cracks appeared in her fleet, vessels peeling away, pilots rebelling against the revealed tyrant. The battle turned chaotic, loyalists clashing with defectors in a thrilling melee of laser fire and evasive maneuvers. Eli piloted the flagship with Lyra's guidance, the bond making them an unstoppable duo, his human improvisation dodging blasts, her ancient knowledge unleashing counterstrikes that disabled rather than destroyed, aiming to reclaim rather than conquer. Ray's voice crackled through. "Thorne, whatever you did, it's working, half their fleet standing down." But Zara, cornered, launched a desperate assault, her command ship barreling toward them in a suicide run, weapons blazing. The impact loomed, drama peaking as shields buckled under the barrage. Eli felt Lyra's fear through the bond, but also her love, a surprising depth that fueled his resolve. "Hold on," he whispered, rerouting power in a bold gamble, channeling the bond's energy into a focused beam. The flagship fired, piercing Zara's vessel in a spectacular implosion that lit the void. But in the final moment, Zara's voice echoed one last time, "You think this ends me, sister? The cataclysm's seeds are sown deeper than you know." As debris scattered, the remaining exiles surrendered, hailing Lyra as the true sovereign. The fleet united, a armada reborn under their command. But Eli sensed a lingering shadow in the bond, Zara's words hinting at a greater conspiracy, perhaps ties to human history that the prophecy had yet to reveal. Lyra turned to him, pulling him into an embrace amid the cheering Federation crew. "You unveiled the truth," she murmured, her lips brushing his. But if Zara spoke of deeper seeds, Eli held her close, the twist surprise still reverberating. "We'll face it together. Humans are good at surprises and turning them into victories." As the combined fleets set course for Federation space, the bond thrummed with promise, but also a curious warning. The cataclysm's full story was far from over. The journey back through the veil was smoother now, the awakened fleet stabilizing the rift with their collective power, allowing safe passage for all. On the flagship's bridge, Eli and Lyra stood side by side, Rays coordinating with her superiors via encrypted channels, the atmosphere buzzing with a mix of awe and strategy. Defecting exiles integrated cautiously, sharing tales of survival that painted Zara as a manipulative force who had twisted their loyalty with half-truths. But as systems normalized, Eli delved deeper into the archives, the bond granting him access to sealed files. What he uncovered added layers to the twist. Zara hadn't acted alone. Encrypted logs revealed alliances with shadowy human precursors. Early Federation explorers who stumbled upon Zerathia centuries ago, trading tech for resources, but igniting the internal war when greed took hold. The Cataclysm, a joint experiment gone wrong, devourers unleashed as a weapon that backfired. Eli shared the findings with Lyra privately in their quarters, the revelation hitting like a second wave. Humans, my people, were involved. He said, shock mingling with guilt, the bond conveying his turmoil. Lyra placed a hand over his heart, her touch soothing. Not you, Eli. Ancestors' sins don't define us. This explains the prophecy, designed to bridge our worlds when the time came. She leaned in, their foreheads touching, the intimacy a balm against the surprise's sting. Yet, as they prepared for Federation integration, a final twist whispered through the bond. A faint signal from Zara's wreckage, not destroyed but escaped, a pod jettisoned at the last second, carrying her essence toward unknown coordinates. She's alive, Lyra breathed, eyes widening. Eli's resolve hardened, HFY spirit igniting. Then we'll find her. End this for good. With the fleet at their command and their bond unbreakable, they faced the stars, ready for whatever surprises lay ahead. As the decision to pursue Zara hung between them like a charged nebula, Eli and Lyra lingered in the flagship's quarters. The vastness of space stretching out through the viewport like an endless canvas of possibilities and perils. The bond thrummed with their shared determination, a steady rhythm that echoed the fleet's engines powering up for the hunt, but beneath it lurked the drama of uncertainty. Zara's escape pod was a ghost in the sensors, its trail faint and erratic, leading into treacherous sectors riddled with asteroid fields and unstable anomalies. Lyra pulled back from the embrace slightly, her violet eyes searching his, the intimacy of their union still a warm undercurrent amid the rising stakes. We must brief the Council of Elders, the awakened ones from the fleet, she said, her voice resolute yet softened by the vulnerability only he could sense through their link. They will demand proof of Zara's survival, and our bond will be scrutinized. But with you by my side, Eli, I feel anchored. He squeezed her hand, flashing a grin to lighten the moment. Anchored. In space terms, that's either romantic or a bad docking maneuver. Either way, I'm in. His humor elicited a soft laugh from her, a rare melody that cut through the tension. But as they made their way to the council chamber, the drama began to heighten, the ship's corridors alive with the bustle of integrating exiles and Federation personnel. Humans and Zerathians eyeing each other warily, cultural clashes brewing like storms on the horizon. The chamber was a grand hall, crystalline pillars pulsing with the fleet's collective energy. Elders, ancient Zerathians roused from stasis. Seated in a semicircle, their forms ethereal and wise, adorned in flowing robes that shimmered like starfields. Rays and a few Federation officers stood awkwardly to the side, their utilitarian uniforms clashing with the opulent setting. Tors shifting uncomfortably, as if expecting the floor to swallow him. As Eli and Lyra entered, all eyes turned to them, the air thick with expectation. Elder Vale, Lyra began, addressing the central figure, a tall Zerathian with silver-veined skin and eyes like distant galaxies. The betrayer lives. Her pod evades us, but the bond has revealed coordinates. She flees toward the Shadow Vale, where remnants of the Cataclysm linger. Vale's gaze pierced them, heightening the drama as he leaned forward. The bond reveals much, Sovereign, but to command the fleet in pursuit, you must demonstrate its purity. Perform the rite of unity before us. Let the elders witness the harmony that awakened our ships. Eli froze, the words sinking in like a sudden gravity well. Rite of unity? Through the bond, he glimpsed what it entailed. A ceremonial sharing of essences, not as private as their earlier unions, but a public affirmation involving synchronized touches and energy flows, intimate, yet symbolic, meant to inspire loyalty. But in front of an audience, awkwardness crashed over him like a rogue wave, his face heating as he imagined the Federation crew's reactions. Right of what now? He muttered under his breath, glancing at Lyra, who seemed unfazed, her culture viewing such displays as honorable. But the bond conveyed her subtle amusement at his discomfort, a light tease that only amplified the situation. Vale's expression remained solemn. The right binds the fleet to your will. Sovereign, consort begin. Lyra turned to Eli, her hand extending palm up in the traditional gesture, her fingers brushing his with that familiar spark. The elders watched intently, and Ray's cleared her throat awkwardly, her eyes darting away. Thorne, is this necessary? We're on a timeline here. Eli swallowed, humor his fallback as he took Lyra's hand. Apparently, yeah. Think of it as a team-building exercise, Zerathian style. Just, no HR complaints, okay. Tor snickered, earning a glare from Ray's, but the quip eased the tension slightly, even drawing a faint smile from one elder. As they proceeded, the rite unfolded with graceful intensity, Lyra guiding Eli through synchronized movements, their hands tracing patterns in the air that ignited ethereal lights, the bond channeling energy in visible waves. It was intimate without crossing into overt territory. But the closeness, her body pressing lightly against his, their breath syncing, made Eli hyper-aware of the audience. At one point, as a particularly vivid spark jumped between them, recalling their private moments, he stumbled slightly, muttering, "Whoa, that's zingy." The elders nodded approvingly, but Tors whispered loudly enough for all to hear zingy. "Man, if that's foreplay, sign me up for alien HR." The room erupted in a mix of chuckles and gasps, the awkwardness peaking as Lyra tilted her head in confusion. Foreplay? Is this a human ritual of preparation? Her innocent query, delivered with regal curiosity, sent Eli into a fit of embarrassed laughter, heightening the drama in the most unexpected way. The elders exchanging puzzled glances, Ray's pinching the bridge of her nose in exasperation. "Let's just say it's complicated," Eli replied, regaining composure as the rite concluded, the chamber filling with affirming light that signified the fleet's allegiance. Vale rose, declaring, "The bond is true." The hunt begins. But the drama didn't relent as they transitioned to the war room, Federation holomaps merging with Zerathian projections to track Zara's pod. Scans revealed it heading into the Shadow Veil, a nebula infamous for sensor blackouts and gravitational traps, where ships vanished like whispers. "She's baiting us," Lyra said, her voice tense, the bond conveying flashes of sibling rivalry turned deadly. The Veil hides horrors from the Cataclysm, devourer nests, perhaps even worse. Ray's leaned over the map, her strategic mind kicking in. "We send scouts first. Thorne, your zingy bond might give us an edge interface with the probes." Eli complied, the awkward rite forgotten in the thrill, his enhanced abilities allowing him to pilot remote drones through the bond, scouting ahead with unprecedented precision. The first probe vanished in a burst of static, heightening the stakes as feedback flooded the bond, visions of swirling darkness, mechanical tendrils lurking. "Ambush," Eli gasped, pulling back. "She's not alone, she's allied with surviving devourers, using them as guards." Lyra's face paled, the betrayal cutting deeper. "Then we go in force." "But Eli, the veil disrupts bonds. We must stay close, or the link could falter." Her words carried a dramatic weight, implying not just tactical risk but emotional, their union tested in the void. Eli nodded, injecting humor to steady them. "Close, like right close. Because if that's the plan, warn the crew, things might get awkward again." Lyra's lips quirked, the light moment a brief respite, but Ray's rolled her eyes. "Save the comedy for after we bag this ghost." "Fleet, move out." The armada surged forward, the shadow veil looming like a cosmic shroud, its tendrils of gas and dust swallowing stars. As they entered, sensors flickered, the drama intensifying with every shadow that danced on the hull. Eli and Lyra stood at the helm, hands linked to maintain the bond, but interference crept in static in their minds, awkward disconnections that made Eli jolt. "Feels like bad comms during a date," he quipped, squeezing her hand tighter. "Don't drop the call now." Lyra smiled faintly, but her eyes scanned the viewscreen anxiously. Suddenly, alerts blared, Zara's pod signature pulsing ahead, surrounded by devourer swarms. There, she pointed, the pursuit reaching fever pitch. The fleet engaged, lasers cutting through the murk in dramatic arcs, but Zara's voice hacked into comms, taunting. "Come closer, sister. See what your human toy has wrought." A trap sprung, gravitational mines detonating, rocking ships and forcing evasive maneuvers that strained the bond further. In the chaos, An awkward revelation hit through a fragmented vision. Zara hadn't just escaped. She'd stolen a piece of the bond's energy during the battle, twisting it to control the Devourers. She's mimicking us, Eli realized, horror dawning, using a shadow bond to command them. Lyra's grip tightened, drama peaking as they closed in. Then we end her mockery. But as their flagship bore down, Zara's pod evaded with unnatural agility, leading them deeper into the Veil's heart, where a massive structure emerged, a derelict Zerathian station, pulsing with corrupted energy. Docking amid fire, Eli and Lyra led a boarding party, Federation Marines and Zerathian warriors mixing uneasily. The station's corridors were a labyrinth of shadows and echoes, awkward alliances tested as a human tripped over a crystalline vine. Muttering, "This place is booby-trapped with fairy lights." Humor lightened the dread, but drama surged when they cornered Zara in the core chamber, her form augmented by stolen tech, eyes glowing with mad power. "You think you can end me?" She snarled, unleashing energy waves that disrupted the bond, making Eli and Lyra stagger. Awkward vulnerability hit, their link faltering, private memories flashing publicly through holographic glitches, drawing wide-eyed stares from the team. "Oops," Eli quipped breathlessly. "Bonds got a leak, everyone avert your eyes." Lyra rallied, her voice commanding. Together, Eli, focus. They channeled the bond's remnants, his human resilience stabilizing her, countering Zara's assault in a climactic clash of wills. Zara lunged, but Eli's quick thinking, rigging a Federation grenade with Zerathian energy, disrupted her shadow bond, leaving her vulnerable. As she collapsed, defeated but alive, the drama crested with her final words. "The seeds. They're in your precious Federation." Humans started it all. The revelation hung, but Eli cuffed her, humor cutting the tension. Great family therapy in space. Who's buying the popcorn? With Zara secured, the station's secrets unlocked, maps to hidden tech caches, hinting at human involvement in the cataclysm. The team withdrew, the veil parting as the fleet emerged victorious, but the awkward truth loomed. Alliances forged in fire, now tested by buried sins. Lyra leaned on Eli, whispering, "Whatever comes, our bond endures." He kissed her forehead, ready for the next chapter's drama. As the fleet emerged from the Shadow Veil's clutches, the stars reclaiming their steady gleam against the blackness, Eli and Lyra stood on the flagship's bridge. The weight of Zara's capture, and the unearthed secrets settling over them like a cosmic fog lifting to reveal clearer skies. Zara, bound in a stasis field in the brig, her defiant eyes now dulled by defeat, represented not just a personal victory, but a turning point for two worlds long divided by shadows of the past. The Federation ships flanked the Zerathian armada in a tentative formation, rays coordinating the return to charted space with a mix of caution and optimism, her voice crackling over the comms as she relayed updates to high command. "Thorne, Voss, whatever mess your bond stirred up, it's rewriting history. But let's get home before more surprises pop out of the woodwork." Eli wrapped an arm around Lyra's waist, pulling her close, the bond a gentle hum now, free from the veil's interference, conveying her quiet relief mingled with the lingering ache of betrayal. "Home," he echoed softly, kissing her forehead again, the gesture a anchor in the vastness. "For you, that's Zerathia's remnants. For me, well, maybe it's wherever you are." His words carried a sincerity born from their trials, the intimacy they'd shared forging a connection that transcended species, turning what began as a jest into a profound partnership. Lyra leaned into him, her white hair brushing his shoulder, her pointed ears twitching at the subtle vibrations of the ship. "The bond has shown me that home is not a place, but a shared path. With Zara's confessions, we can heal the fractures, unite our peoples against the true threats hidden in those caches." Her voice held a regal hope, the drama of their journey evolving into a promise of renewal, but she paused, glancing at the viewscreen where the Federation's vanguard loomed protectively. "Yet the human involvement. It weighs on you." Eli nodded, staring at the stars, the revelations from the station's logs replaying in his mind. Early human explorers, driven by ambition, had inadvertently fueled Zerathia's internal war by supplying tech that exacerbated the schism, leading to the cataclysm's devastation. It was a buried sin, one that could strain the budding alliance, but in true human fashion, he saw opportunity in the ashes. It does. But humans are messy, we make mistakes, then we fix them. This could be our chance to right old wrongs, build something better. Think about it, a joint Federation Zerathian force blending our grit with your grace. Unstoppable. Reyes approached then, her stern facade cracking into a rare smile as she overheard. You're sounding like a diplomat now, Thorne. High Command's already buzzing about integration talks. But first, we debrief. And you two explain that right business without the light show. Her quip brought a flush to Eli's cheeks, the awkward memory of the council chamber resurfacing, but Lyra's soft laugh eased the moment, her hand squeezing his in silent solidarity. The journey back unfolded with a sense of cautious celebration. Exiles and Federation crew mingled in the flagship's communal halls, sharing stories over synthesized meals. Humans demonstrating card games that baffled Zerathians with their randomness, while elders recounted legends that left Marines wide-eyed. Eli found himself at the center, his bond-enhanced insights bridging gaps. Helping a young Zerathian engineer adapt human coding to ancient systems, or diffusing a tense debate about resource sharing with a timely joke. Hey, if we can bond across stars on a whim, sharing a reactor core should be easy. Just don't ask for my Netflix password. Lyra watched him with growing admiration, the bond conveying her warmth, a subtle undercurrent of desire that promised private moments amid the bustle. One evening, as the fleet neared Federation borders, they stole away to their quarters, the viewport framing a nebula's colorful swirls like a backdrop to their evolving love. You bring light to my people, she murmured, her fingers tracing his jaw, the touch igniting familiar sparks. Their embrace deepened naturally, bodies entwining in a rhythm honed by trials, the passion gentle yet profound, an affirmation of endurance rather than urgency. Eli held her close afterward, whispering dreams of a future where their worlds intertwined, perhaps a shared colony or joint explorations into uncharted realms. But closure demanded confronting the past fully. Upon docking at a Federation hub, Zara was transferred to a secure facility, her trial a spectacle that united leaders from both sides. Eli testified alongside Lyra, the bond allowing them to present unified evidence, logs, memories projected holographically, exposing the cataclysm's roots without blame, focusing on healing. Zara, stripped of her augmentations, faced judgment with a mix of defiance and regret, her final words a grudging admission. You win this cycle, sister. But guard your bond, it's the key to everything. The verdict brought peace. Rehabilitation for Zara under supervised stasis, her knowledge harnessed for good. In the aftermath, alliances formalized, technology exchanges, joint patrols with Eli and Lyra as ambassadors, their story becoming legend, inspiring tales of unity across the stars. Months later, on a newly established outpost blending human and Zerathian design, Eli and Lyra stood on an observation deck, watching shuttles ferry between worlds. The bond had evolved, a constant companion that enriched rather than overwhelmed, allowing space for individual growth while deepening their connection. From a lonely broadcast to this, Eli mused, pulling her into his arms, the humor in his voice light. Who knew joking about a cosmic queen would lead to ruling the galaxy, or at least co-managing it? Lyra smiled, her lips meeting his in a kiss that echoed their first, full of promise. The stars aligned for us, my consort, and whatever adventures await, we face them as equals. As they gazed at the horizon, the fleet, now a symbol of harmony, patrolled the void, a testament to what began as a whim but blossomed into enduring love and legacy. The end came not with fanfare, but with quiet fulfillment. Eli returned to his roots occasionally, sharing stories with old outpost friends, his broadcasts now tales of triumph rather than loneliness. Lyra, revitalized, led her people into a renaissance, their culture flourishing alongside humanity's ingenuity. Together, they explored new frontiers, the bond a guiding light, proving that even in the infinite cosmos, connection could conquer all. Years passed, their union yielding not just diplomatic victories, but personal joys, perhaps children, blending traits in ways that defied biology, symbols of a bridged divide. And in moments of reflection, Eli would tease, best joke I ever made. Lyra's laughter would ring out, the sound a melody across the stars, their story a beacon for generations. From jest to destiny, humanity's fire igniting eternal flames. As Eli and Lyra forged a new era from Unity Station, their bond a beacon of love and alliance, I'm struck by how a human's jest sparked a cosmic saga. Their story shows our knack for turning chaos into hope, pure HFY magic. What's your take? Could a single spark change your stars? Thank you, stargazers, for joining this epic. Like, sub, comment, share. Your support fuels X-Aurel's next stellar tale.